reprieve. "Don't leave me here, Mama. Please," Nne whispered, her voice barely audible over the noise of the bustling campus. Uju knelt down and held Nne's face in her hands.
"I see you, my heart, they beats. A lady of all men's dreams. You be the one where they make me the..."
Hey guys, Nne definitely do not want to go back to school after the long vacations. Let's find out why. Nne clung to the car door, her small fingers turning white from the tight grip. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded with her mother, Uju, not to take her back to school. "Please, Mama, don't make me go back. I don't want to go," Nne begged, her voice breaking with desperation. Uju's heart ached at the sight of her daughter's tears, but she hardened her resolve. She had to be strong. She knew education was important for Nne's future. "Nne, my dear, you need to go to school. It's for your own good, baby," Uju said, trying to sound firm but gentle. "You were happy there before. What changed?" Nne shook her head, unable to put into words the fear that gripped her heart. She glanced at her father, Chukwudi, hoping he might intervene, but he too was resolute, believing that Nne's reluctance was just a phase. "We are doing this for you, Nne," Chukwudi said. "You need to be strong." As the car approached the gate of the boarding school, Nne's crying intensified. Uju and Chukwudi had to practically drag her out of the car. They exchanged worried glances but continued to work her towards the school entrance. The school compound was busy with students, reuniting with friends and settling into their dormitories. But Nne's heart was heavy with dread. She clung to her mother's arm, hoping for a last-minute reprieve. "Don't leave me here, Mama. Please," Nne whispered, her voice barely audible over the noise of the bustling campus. Uju knelt down and held Nne's face in her hands. "You are strong, Nne. You can do this. We love you and we will come to visit you soon." With one last hug, Uju and Chukwudi left their daughter at the entrance, hoping they had made the right decisions. Uju had always wanted to be a mother. From the moment she married Chukwudi, she dreamt of having a child to love and care for. Just 10 months into their marriage, her dream came through when she gave birth to a beautiful daughter. They named her Nne because she looked so much like Uju's own mother. Nne was the light of Uju's life. She cherished every moment with her daughter, from the first step to the first word. Uju showered Nne with love and affection, ensuring she had everything she needed. But as Nne grew older, Uju began to feel the weight of her responsibilities. The demands of motherhood and her job were overwhelming. She often wondered if she was truly ready for the challenges that came with raising a child. One day, her friend Chika suggested sending Nne to a boarding school. "It will give you some time to focus on your work and take care of yourself," Chika said, "and Nne will get a good education." At first, Uju was hesitant, but after thinking it over, she realized it might be the best option for her. Nne was excited about the idea of going to boarding school, and Uju was relieved to have a solution. Nne was eventually sent to boarding house. Nne's first term at the boarding school had been filled with excitement and new experiences. She quickly made friends with two sisters, Nkechi and Ada, who had a unique background they didn't share with everyone. Their mother was a psychic, and they often saw her using Ouija board to communicate with the dead. One night, Nkechi and Ada brought the Ouija board to the dormitory. They invited Nne to join them, explaining it was just a bit of fun. Nne was hesitant but didn't want to be left out, so she reluctantly agreed. As midnight approached, the three girls gathered in the dormitory. They lit candles and placed the Ouija board on the floor. Nkechi and Ada began to chant softly, their eyes fixed on the board. Nne watched nervously, unsure of what to expect. The planchette began to move, and the girls' excitement grew. They asked questions, and the board responded with cryptic answers. Nne felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't like the game, but she kept quiet. One night, as the girls were using the Ouija board, the hostel mistress Obiageli walked in. Nne was relieved, thinking Obiageli would put a stop to it. But to her shock, Obiageli smiled and sat down with them. "Don't worry, Nne," Obiageli said softly. "There are reasons to be part of this. It can help you understand things beyond our world." Nne was confused but calmed by Obiageli's presence. She continued to participate, though she felt uneasy. Obiageli's involvement made her doubt her own instinct. When the term ended, Nne returned home, but she refused to go back to school. She couldn't bring herself to tell her parents why. She felt trapped and alone, but her parents took her back to school by force. A month had passed since the new academic session. It was visiting day. Uju was excited to see her daughter. She arrived at the school with a big smile, carrying Nne's favorite treat. Uju was the first parent to arrive at the school. She was so excited to see Nne that she could barely stand still. She carried a large lunch box full of her daughter's favorite food, which she had stayed up all night making. As the school gates opened and the students started coming out, Uju eagerly searched for Nne's face in the crowd. The atmosphere grew lively as the students spotted their parents and ran towards them. Uju waited and waited for Nne to show up, standing on her tiptoes as she scanned the crowd. She began to worry when moments later, Nne still had not shown up, and a crowd of students coming out of the gate had reduced. Her heart started beating fast, and her excitement was turning to fear. Where was Nne? What was taking her so long? Uju stepped inside the gate and started asking around. She asked anyone she could find. The gatesman said he had not seen Nne leave campus. She asked Nne's classmates if they had seen her, and they all said no, they had not seen her that day. Uju approached the school principal and the teachers next, who all confirmed that they had not seen Nne that day. But where was she? Uju asked. Panic was growing and growing, making it hard for her to breathe, even though they all claimed not to have seen her for that day. Then, what do you see if you don't see my daughter? Uju thundered. She is supposed to be under your care. What nonsense. Everything did not feel right to Uju. She ran around the campus searching for her daughter. She looked everywhere, but her daughter was nowhere to be found. The school authorities soon joined in searching every inch of the school, yet no one could find Nne. Uju's worst nightmare had come through. Where was her daughter? She carried her hand on her head and pasted. She could not breathe well. People were talking to her, but she could not hear anyone. This could not be happening to her. She closed her eyes and prayed that the nightmare would be gone by the time she opened them. But when she opened her eyes, Nne was still missing. It was getting dark at the point, and the school principal suggested that they should all go home and continue the search the next day. That was when Uju lost her mind. She started shouting at the principal. How could the principal suggest such a thing? What if her daughter needed help? What if her daughter was in danger? This was all principal's fault. Her daughter was missing because of their negligence. They were going to pay. She would make them all pay if they did not find her daughter soon. Deep down, she was blaming herself, feeling like her daughter warned her. She told her, Uju spent that night at the school, and all night she has circled the school compound, calling out to her daughter, hoping she would hear her. She cracked under the benches and looked behind the buildings, hoping that her daughter was hiding there, playing hide and seek. But by morning, she still had not found her daughter. Chukwudi, her husband, who had been on a business trip, arrived at the school the next morning. He was just as heartbroken as Uju. Uju had tried to speak to him to explain what had happened to their daughter, but her voice failed her. She cried, but her tears had all dried up from crying the whole night. Without knowing where her daughter was, she felt empty inside. She felt like a deflated balloon. Another minute spent without her daughter. She just wanted to lie down and cry. She followed her husband home reluctantly. The police were all over the school, now looking for Nne, and there was nothing Uju and her husband Chukwudi could do other than to go home and wait. Uju prayed that it was all just a nightmare, but it was not a nightmare. One day turned into two, then a week, and still no sign of Nne. Her husband Chukwudi called in every favor they had and used every service at their disposal, but Nne was still nowhere to be found. She had simply vanished. There was no trace, no clue, nothing, and it made no sense. How did a 14-year-old girl disappear without anyone seeing her? Everyone was puzzled. After a month of searching, the pain became unbearable for Uju, not knowing where her daughter was, or if she was okay, was the worst punishment to a mother. What no one knew was that Obiageli, the school hostel mistress, had a deeply tragic past. She had once been a happy mother with a beautiful baby girl named Amara. Amara had been the light of her life, bringing joy and laughter into their home. She was a bright-spirited child, full of dreams and aspirations. As she grew older, Amara became a student at the very same college where Obiageli worked. Amara excelled in her studies and was well liked by her peers and teachers. However, her bright future was abruptly overshadowed by a devastating diagnosis. At the age of 14, Amara was diagnosed with leukemia. The news shattered Obiageli's world, plunging her into a nightmare she could not wake up from. Despite their best efforts and the relentless hope that Obiageli clung to, Amara's health continued to decline. Obiageli watched helplessly as her daughter's vibrant spirit was slowly extinguished by the relentless disease. The once lively girl became frail and weak, confined to hospital bed and subjected to endless treatment. Obiageli never left Amara's side, praying for a miracle that never came. The pain of watching her daughter suffer was unbearable, and the day Amara passed away was the darkest of Obiageli's life. She felt as if a part of her own soul had died with Amara, leaving her empty and lost. The grief consumed Obiageli, and she struggled to find meaning in a world without her beloved daughter. Desperate for any connection to Amara, she turned to unorthodox method, seeking ways to communicate with her lost child. It was in this state of despair that Nkechi and Ada, two students who had their own dark secrets, met Obiageli. That fateful evening, Obiageli sat in her dimly lit room at the school, clutching a small photo of her daughter Amara. The silence was heavy, reminding her constantly of her loss. She was the hostel mistress responsible for the well-being of all the students, but her heart was elsewhere, aching for her child. In her desperation, she sought anywhere to feel close to her lost child. When she was done, she made her rounds in the dormitory, a normal routine check, when she overheard a conversation between Nkechi and Ada, two of her students. Intrigued by their hushed tones, she paused outside their door. Are you sure it works? Nkechi asked, her voice low and curious. Ada nodded. Of course it does. Mommy have used it a lot to talk to Daddy, Ada said. But we have to be careful with it. It's not something to play with. Obiageli knocked softly and entered. What are you girls talking about? Nkechi and Ada exchanged glances before Ada spoke. Ma, it's Oija bird, ma. It can help you talk to spirits. Obiageli's heart skipped a beat. Can it help me talk to my daughter? She asked, her voice trembling with hope. Nkechi hesitated, then nodded slowly. It's possible, ma, but you must understand, it's very dangerous. That night, after the other students had gone to bed, Nkechi and Ada visited Obiageli's room. They brought with them a worn wooden board and a small planchette. Obiageli watched as they sat up in her desk, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. Ada looked at her seriously. Are you sure you want to do this? Obiageli nodded. I need to talk to Amara. Nkechi lit a few candles around the room, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Place your fingers on the planchette, ma, she instructed, and focus on your daughter. Obiageli did as she was told, her fingers trembling. Amara, are you here? She whispered. For a moment, nothing happened. The silence was almost unbearable. Then slowly, the planchette began to move. Obiageli gasped, her eyes wide with astonishment. It's moving, she exclaimed. Amara, is that you? The planchette slid to yes. Tears streamed down Obiageli's face. I miss you so much, she sobbed. The planchette moved again, spelling out words, Mama, love. Obiageli's heart ached with a mixture of joy and sorrows. She was sure it was her daughter's spirit communicating with her. From that night on, Obiageli became obsessed with the Oija board. She used it daily, seeking comfort in the messages she believed were from Amara. Ada and Nkechi noticed her obsession and worried for her well-being, but Obiageli was too consumed by her grief to care. Amara, are you here? She would ask every night, her voice filled with desperation. The planchette always moved, giving her the answer she longed to hear. But as time went on, Obiageli's question became more demanding. She wanted more than just messages. She wanted to see her daughter, to feel her presence. Can you come to me? She pleaded one night, tears streaming down her face. Can you stay with me? The air grew cold, and the candles flickered wildly. The planchette moved swiftly, spelling out soon. Obiageli's heart raced with anticipation. She could feel Amara's presence growing stronger each day. She believed that soon her daughter would manifest and live with her again. Obiageli was willing to do anything to have her daughter back, even if it means losing herself in the process. Now, the most intriguing question is, where is Ne? Is she with Obiageli? Where do we find her? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out where Ne is. The moral of this story is to always listen to your instinct. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And remember, not everyone is as it seems. Always seek the truth before passing judgment. I will see you again in the next episode soon. I still remain Tales by Chika. Goodbye.